so much for agreeing to join me today for a walk.
It's a pleasure.
It's really, really good because I know you're really busy. So just to introduce you, Nick Powell, who's the face of Sky Sports News. Your path didn't seem, when you started out, I think it was University for German and Russian that you did.
Yeah, that's right. I'd always wanted to be on the radio since I stopped wanting to be a train driver about the age of 8. That's what I fancied doing. And I wasn't sure really whether I'd get into, which is obviously quite a sought-after job. And my careers teacher at school just said, listen, for A-level and if you want to go to university, do what you're good at, do what you enjoy, worry about your career later on. And I was good at German and Russian, so that's what I did at uni. And I had a brilliant time spending a year in Munich and then St. Petersburg, which was then Leningrad in those days, because I'm so old. I did, luckily, Bradford University, where I was, opened its radio station in my final year. That was really fortunate, and that gave me enough of a grounding to get into the Cardiff postgraduate journalism course 1 year after Bradford, and it went from there.
Perfect. And then you ended up at Sky Sports News.
Yes, I did 10 years in TV in Yorkshire, and 4 years before that in radio in Yorkshire. Then I came to Sky News in 1996, so I've just clocked up in the last month or two, 25 years at Sky.
Gee. Yeah, because you always seem, I know going into my sister and brother-in-law, I've always got Sky Sports News on, and you always seem to be on the telly when I get to their house. It's almost like you're a picture on the wall. Well,
maybe I need to be paid more. Maybe I'm working
too. So obviously you must have seen lots and lots of changes in Sky over the years. I've been lucky enough to work with the news and the sports teams quite a lot, not recently, but over the years. And when you go into the studios, it's a completely different atmosphere from working in finance up here. It's a complete buzz about the place. Obviously, that's changed a lot over the years, but particularly over the last year.
Yes, I mean, it's sort of, I don't think the atmosphere has changed particularly over the years, but it certainly has in the last 12 months. It was very, very quiet and very weird when in the first period when we carried on broadcasting, we never went off air, we kept going. Although quite a bit of our output was recorded, so we'd do a live half hour and then we'd put that out for the next 3 half hours and then do another live half hour. We were operating on just 2 presenters per day, one starting on air at 7 in the morning and going on to 1:30 in the afternoon, and then somebody else taking over. And we were managing with about 6 people in total in the newsroom. It was extraordinary that we could stay on air.
Yeah.
Whereas now we're back to something a bit more like normality in Sky Sports News. We've still only got probably between a third and a half, I guess, probably a third of people in that we would have normally. But compared with the rest of the building, it is relatively normal. You walk around the building and the building is almost empty. It's great. You can park.
There's always a positive that comes out.
There is. There's always a silver lining somewhere.
Yeah. So come back to keep on the sports theme just now, who is your sporting hero or heroine?
Well, there could be so many. I've been so lucky to have been at so many big sporting events. I think about Andy Murray maybe, because I was lucky enough to be there on centre court for 2 of the 4 sets when he won his Wimbledon title in 2013.
Amazing.
And I was then off court on air at the moment that he won his Wimbledon title, and the guy has done so much on his own. And with such determination to get to eventually to number 1 in the world as well. But if you think about hero worship, it maybe applies a bit more when you're younger. So I go back to Kevin Keegan, because I'm born and bred Liverpudlian. I've been a Liverpool fan since I knew about football. And I remember now Keegan arriving. He was a northerner like me. He came from, born in Doncaster, I think. He was signed from Scunthorpe United. And Liverpool had really high hopes of him from the word go. I think he scored on his debut against Nottingham Forest 1971. I haven't checked that, but that's how I remember it. And he was this kind of all-action guy. He had the Beatles-style perm in those days. He was like the Liverpool Beatle. Whenever I went abroad, I was telling somebody the other day, I went to Tunisia in the, I don't know, early 80s, I think, and I said I was from Liverpool, and everybody, when I said that, said, "Oh, the Beatles, Kevin Keegan." Nobody said anything else. Those are the two things they all said. And he was such an icon. And then I had great respect for the way that he went on, then played for Hamburg in Germany and learnt some German and spoke quite, for a lad who'd come from Scunthorpe United, spoke quite good German. It's ever so easy, especially in those days. As an Englishman abroad, you just went and you just spoke English and hoped that everybody, if you spoke loud enough, everyone would understand you. So I'd say Kevin Keegan maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think he's my hero as well.
I'll tell you one more thing about Kevin Keegan. I actually met him quite early in his Liverpool days because the North of England tennis tournament was played a mile from where I lived in West Kirby on the Wirral. So some of the world's best players came and played tennis around the corner from my home. So we used to go every night after school. It was a fantastic bit of sporting good fortune. And I was just by the edge of the concourse one day, and Kevin Keegan, there he was, just outside the railings, and he came in, and we had a little chat. He was there with Peter Lorenzo, who was a great Sun journalist of his day, father of Matthew Lorenzo, who later worked for Sky. And he was obviously doing some kind of article with him. But he had a signed autograph book, and I worked with him a few times over the years as well. I was working for Yorkshire TV, and our weatherman was away for the week, so we had this bright idea that we'd get somebody else to do the weather forecast, so a non-weather person each night. And on one of the days of this week, I was doing a feature with Kevin Keegan, I think in Doncaster, and I said, "Will you do the weather forecast?" And he was great, good as gold, and he wrote the main lines of the forecast on the back of a football, held the ball there, glanced down it occasionally, did the forecast. At the end of it, belted the ball into the high distance. So it was great fun.
Sounds amazing. I don't know where to go on next from that one then. So, I suppose we're talking about a walk with me. And you know that I'm doing this to raise awareness of how it helps my mental health, and hopefully it can help other people as well. So for me, going out for a walk and listening to music, or going out for a walk with people and chatting away, finding out about people, it's great for me, and it lifts my mood. What lifts your mood? What puts you in a good mood?
Well, I'd have to say being with my other half, Debbie, and her dog, and there they are. That's the thing. It's Lola in the. There's Lola. Hello. And with my two sons, that always lifts my mood. Sunshine. I know I'm treading a well-trodden path here, but the difference between the first lockdown and this one is that the first one you could go out in the garden, go wherever, and the weather was warm and the sun was out, but also the bird song that we had then, and anytime I can be by the sea, that lifts my mood as well. Had some lovely holidays in Padstow over the years, and mountains as well. I love mountains, walking in the mountains. I don't ski. I would fall over the moment I tried, but I love being in the mountains. I love walking in the mountains.
Yeah. We actually go skiing. Well, I retired from skiing quite a few years ago, so I après ski all the time.
Very good.
The boys go and ski. So where's your favourite place to walk?
I think the best walk I can recall doing in a kind of exotic location. I've done loads. I've done lots with Debbie and Lola, but there was one walk I did when I was staying in Corsica many years ago, and we parked. I guess we must have been quite a bit above sea level where we parked, by a lodge, and then we walked up and up and up. I don't think we were going to a mountain top particularly, but we walked through these magnificent gorges, and then at one point to carry on the journey, you had no choice but to walk on a fairly dodgy, shaky rope bridge. And I thought, gosh, this isn't really me, but there was no other. It was that or go back. So we went across the ravine on this rope bridge, and the scenery was magnificent. The weather was magnificent. I always say, with apologies, Corsica is like Scotland, and the mountains are 3 times as high and the weather's twice as good. And so at the end of a long walk, we got back to the auberge, and the the glass of beer I had that day is probably the best glass of beer I've ever had.
The best. I can imagine. Amazing. Thank you very much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Okay, enjoy your weekend.
Thanks,
Tim.
You too.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.